Hi, hello, and welcome to Nami'S classroom. In the last two lectures, we saw the introduction to computer architecture and also the 8 great ideas in computer architecture. Today, we are going to see the topic components of a computer system. Basically, the functional units of a computer system can be classified into two different types. One is hardware and the other is software. So at first, we will see what is the software components of a computer system. So basically the software can be classified into two different types, that is system software and application software. So very simple example of a system software is the operating system, and the very simple example of an application software is the Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel or VLC player or any application that you run on your computer can be considered as an application software. So at first we will see what is system software. So as I already told, the one of the simplest and most important example of a system software is the operating system. Apart from the operating systems, there are many other system softwares available, which includes compilers, loaders, assemblers, etc. So what this system software do? Or what is the use of an operating system? We know that in case of an operating system, we usually use operating system to make a connection between the hardware and the user program. So it basically provides an interface between the user program and the hardware. So we know that there are many programs like VLC player, TeamViewer, Microsoft Office, etc. In order to make your application to work on your computer, we need the help of the operating system. So what this operating system basically do? The three main functions of an operating system is, first one is it handles the input and output operation. So whatever you are giving the input to the computer, it performs the input function and it provides the output functions. So it provides or it handles the basic input and output operations. That is the first important function of an operating system. And second important thing is the storage and memory allocation. So we know that whenever we do something in the computer, we need some storage to store the data. So it performs, the operating system performs the function of allocation of the storage for the data that is being processed. The third important thing is it provides security. So when sometimes we need to share some information, or when sometimes we need when we need to uh, when we need to run multiple applications in a computer, there are some security issues that takes into that we have to take into consideration. So operating system provides security also. So apart from the operating system, there are other kinds of system softwares available, which includes compiler, then loaders, assemblers, etc. So we'll see what is a compiler. We know that compiler is a device, or it's not a device, it's a program that translates the high level language into an assembly language. So you can see here there is a high level language program. So high level language program means it can be a C program, or it can be a C++ program, or it can be a Java program. So any kind of high level language program can be converted into an assembly language, or we can call it as in the form of instructions by using the compiler. So here you can see that you have a high level programming language. This high level programming language has been converted into an assembly language, which is in the form of some instructions. So this has been done by a program that is called a compiler. So this compiler performs the function of converting the high level language into an assembly language. But this assembly language is not a language that is understandable for your computer. So again, what we have to do, we have to convert this assembly language into a binary language. That because we know that the computer will be able to accept, or it will be able to understand only the zeros and ones. So assembler is a program that is used to convert the assembly language into a binary form that the computers are able to understand. So this is the difference between compiler and assembler. So compiler is also one kind of system software. So apart from the system software, we have some application softwares. As I already told, application softwares includes any application that you run in your computer. So when you want any application to run on your computer like VLC player, Telegram, Teamweaver, Microsoft Office, Microsoft Excel, any application you need to run on your computer, you need an operating system. So these applications we can call it as application software, and the platform that you need to run these applications we call it as system software, and that we give the example as operating system. So this is all about the software part of a computer system. Now we will go with the hardware part of a computer system. So what are the important hardware components of a computer system? Basically, the hardware components of a computer system can be divided into 5 main parts: input unit, memory unit, data path unit, control unit, and output unit. In this, the data path unit is otherwise known as arithmetic and logical unit, and this data path unit and control unit will together we call it as processor. So this is the diagrammatic representation of the hardware components of a computer system, where you have some input devices. So the input device will give the input data to the computer or the processing unit, and whatever you have given as the input will be processed by the central processing unit, and then the processed output will be provided to the user by using the output device. So this processed data by the processor will be stored in the memory unit, which can be any kind of memory, which can be a primary memory or a secondary memory. Now we'll see all these 5 units one by one in each of the slides. So this is just the interior part of a computer system. You can see here, this is the once you open the CPU, you can see this interior part of the CPU, and this is the motherboard, and on the motherboard you have this CPU over here. This is the processing unit, where all the computation and analysis will be taken place, and the other parts are all the interior parts of a computer system. So now we'll see what is the input unit. So input unit basically performs the function of feeding the information into the computer. Why we need to feed the information? Because we need to do some computation which is not possible to be analyzed by the human beings. So this computed value will be stored in the CPU in the memory unit. So input unit basically will take the input data from the input devices, and the example for the input devices can be keyboard, mouse, light pen, digitizer, trackball, joystick, etc. So basically this input unit performs 3 main functions. First is it will accept the data from the input devices, or it can be data or it can be instructions. So the from the outside world. Second thing is the data that you have already been accepted by the input device may not be understandable for the computer. So you need to convert the input data into a form that is understandable for the computer. That is the second function. Third function is this converted data has to be given to the CPU for the computation purpose. So these are the 3 important functions of an input unit. Second is the output unit. So output unit is the unit that provides output to the human beings. So we need some output. We have given the input as 2 plus 2. We need to compute 2 plus 2. So the CPU will perform 2 plus 2, and you will get the output as 4 in the output window, or it can be in the monitor. So output devices can be a monitor, it can be a printer, or it can be a plotter, or anything. Basically, the output unit performs 3 main functions, and we know, as I already told, output unit is the unit that communicates between the user and the computer. Second thing is the result that is being computed by the central processing unit will be displayed to the outside world by using the output unit. Third one is the data that is being processed by the CPU will be in the form of binary, because computer can understand only the binary language, but the human beings may not be able to understand the binary language. So we need to convert this binary data into a form that is understandable for the human beings. So this particular function will also be carried out by the output unit. Now we'll see about the central processing unit. We know that CPU is the brain of the computer. So all the processing, all the computations will be done by the central processing unit. It will accept the input data, it will process the information, it will analyze the data, then it will store the data in the memory, and then it will produce the output in the output unit. So what are the important functions of a CPU? We can see that there are four main functions of a CPU. First one is it performs all the calculations and all decisions. It controls and coordinates all the units of the computer. Then it interprets the instructions of a program. And fourth one is it stores the data temporarily. So these are the important functions of a central processing unit. So the central processing unit is the brain of the computer, or we can call it as the heart of the computer system. And this CPU is having two main units. One is control unit and second one is the arithmetic and logical unit. So what this control unit will do? The control unit performs the function of controlling the flow of data. You will be given some input to the computer system, and how the processing has to be taken place, how we have to carry out those instructions, how we have to compute it. So those flow of data between the different parts of a computer will be done by some control signals, and those control signals will be generated by the control unit. So basically, in simple words, control unit perform the function of controlling the flow of data by generating some control signals, so that the computation can be carried out based on the signals that are generated. So this is the function of control unit. Then you have the arithmetic and logical unit. Arithmetic, as the name said, it performs arithmetic operations and it performs logical operations. Arithmetic means addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. Logical means some true or false decisions will be taken by the logical unit. So these are the two important parts of the central processing unit, and this unit is called the heart of the computer system. The last one is the memory unit. We know that we use memory for storing the data. So why the memory is most important? Because we know that whenever we are processing some data, we need to store the data somewhere. So the memory unit is very important, and basically the memory can be classified into two different types: primary memory and secondary memory. Primary memory is otherwise known as main memory, and it is basically being used for storing the data temporarily for processing. And primary memory can be classified into two different types: RAM and ROM, random access memory and read-only memory. RAM is a kind of volatile memory where the data will be lost when the power is turned off. ROM is a read-only memory. It is a permanent memory. It is a volatile memory. So even the power is switched off, the data will not be erased. So basically, the programs will be stored in the ROM memory, and the computed data will be stored in the RAM memory. Then we have the secondary memory. Secondary memory, the very simple example of secondary memory is hard disk, then pen drive. All those are some secondary memory examples, and this secondary memory we call it as a permanent memory, because the data will be kept as such until and unless we erase it. So we know that in case of a pen drive, if the data is stored in the pen drive, unless and until we delete the data from the pen drive, it will exist as such. So secondary memory or permanent memory, and this can store large amount of data, and the best example is pen drive or hard disk, etc. can be considered as a secondary memory. So the functions of secondary memory can be of different types. First one is it is not directly accessible. Second one is it is a non-volatile memory, non-volatile, and there is a long-term storage, and it can hold a large amount of data. And the only one drawback in the secondary memory is it works slower than that of the primary memory. So basically, secondary memory is being used for taking or storing large amount of data. So this is all about the different components of a computer system. Basically, the components of a computer system can be of two types: hardware and software. Software are of two types, system software and application software, and the hardware parts are of 5 different parts we are having, and the explanation has been already given in the lecture. So thank you so much for watching. I hope the components of a computer system is clear for you. If you are having any doubts, you can put your comments in the comment box. Continue watching the channel. Kindly subscribe the channel. This channel is comprises of 60 sessions for this lecture of computer architecture. So those who have not subscribed, please subscribe the channel so that you will get the notifications once I upload each and every videos. So continue watching the channel for the next lecture. It is of technology. So we'll be discussing about different technologies of the computer architecture. Thank you so much for watching. Happy learning.